Could you sum up in a sentence or so your background and basically who you are relative to this event today?
Sure. I'm a computer scientist. I graduated from Berkeley in '69, started SRI in 1972, and worked in Doug's group, the Augmentation Research Center, from about '73 through about '78.
What was it like working with Doug?
It was amazing. He was a visionary, and it's just constantly pushing you, and he saw so far ahead of his time that we still haven't caught up with his vision. So he was inspiration any time I got to spend with him.
Was he constantly churning out new ideas?
Yes, and constantly forcing us to try everything. So one of the things he was very early on is quick iteration. So we would change the software every week. The software would never stay the same. He would have new ideas for things to add, and we worked on making it very easy to change the system. So
was he easy to work with or difficult? Was he sometimes very demanding?
I wouldn't say demanding, but he always was pushing for perfection and wanted to improve things and wanted to find a way around. I mean, even from the beginning, there wasn't any computer terminals, so they essentially built oscilloscopes and pointed closed-circuit TV cameras at them. So just kind of no barriers ever to try and just push his vision forward. So.
What was his long-term vision? I know that he had a long-term vision.
Yeah, I think it's really best captured by the title of his group, the Augmentation Research Center. So he wanted to research ways to use automation, computers particularly, to augment human intellect and to help make the augmented human intellect solve man's problems. So he had a huge vision, long-term vision.
When you say augmenting human intellect, does that mean some type of biological change or just training people better?
I think it was two things. It was tools for the individual and tools for the group. So it was tools to help the individual do their work a lot faster and a lot better, and also tools to help collaboration, to help get the sum of the parts be greater than the sum of the parts greater than some of the individual, to make the groups function better together.
Now, do all the people in this group become augmented intellectually as a result of being in the group? Did this work at the local level?
Yes, I believe it did. I mean, especially I was a programmer, systems programmer, and some of the most talented programmers I've ever met were in that group, and I think it was partly because of the tools. The tools were just fantastic tools for the purpose of software engineering, and just way ahead of their time. And so certainly the engineers use the tools to augment their facilities.
Was it mostly about the technology tools, or was it also about human beings in the way they relate to each other?
It was about both the human beings and the information. It was one of the first real hypertext links, so you could always click on a link and follow links, and so it's both the people working together. It was one of the first places I worked at that had a bullpen out in the middle, so people had closed offices around the outside, and then there's bullpens out in the middle where people came and worked at workstations.
Now, I noticed that you have some rather vintage
electronic
objects in your lap.
Yes, it's true.
Explain what that is.
Yeah, so this is a mouse. This is from the time I worked there, probably 72, 73, 3-button mouse. And Doug's vision was 2 ways of dealing with text. Text entry is done with 2 hands on a keyboard, and text editing is done with 1 hand on a mouse and 1 hand on a key set. This is a 5-key chorded key set. You actually play commands. You play chords on it and to give commands to the system, and it's in binary. So that's A, that's B, that's C, that's D, E, F, and G. And for example, to make a copy of a procedure in a file, it had structured files, so you hit one view spec like that, you saw just 1 line per procedure. Then you could say copy, branch, click, click, and point to 1 line, and it would copy that whole procedure into the file. So yes.
So that's a binary keypad with 5 keys, so you get a maximum of 32.
32, right, and 3 here. It's 8. So 256. You could shift keys here. So lowercase numbers here and give commands. You press 1 button here to do shift keys, another one to do view spec commands.
Can we see the bottom of that now?
Yes,
so like
yes.
2 wheels.
Yeah, so there's 2 wheels, and these are actually just potentiometers, like dimmer switches. And they have fixed stops, so they stop there, so the mouse movement was fixed just to the size of the screen, and 1 skid pad here, so it rolled around like that. And you pointed that. One funny thing is this was a slightly nonlinear response. Later on, when mouse became slotted or light-based, they became linear response, and everybody from argument hated it because they were used to the nonlinear response in their muscle memory, and they liked it. So it was hard to learn. But Doug and Bill applied for the mouse patent, got the mouse patent in '62 or so, I think. Also applied for patent on the keyset. Found out this device was patented in 1865 by Western Union as a telegraph input device. And he got lots of credit for the mouse, but without the keyset, it's a sort of a crippled system. It's a one-handed system. It makes you type with one hand behind your back, edit with one hand tied behind your back.
Were these devices used, or were they mostly experimental?
No, they're used every day by the people that were using the system. And a trained user using this, I mean, I wish there was more video on the net, but the coefficient of friction between the characters on the screen and the screen became zero. The text would just fly around with people giving commands here and pointing arguments here, never moving their hands back to the keyboard.
So what was the most exciting thing about working in this group? Was it having this technology and being able to do things that previously could not be done? Yeah,
I think it was knowing you were glimpsing the future. Knowing that eventually everybody in the world would see this and sort of not even believing it. Doug had this amazing ability to understand the exponential growth implied by Moore's law. Most other humans, myself included, can only predict linearly. And because of that, we sort of overpredict what technology will do in the short term, but underpredict what technology does in the long term. Because the linear curve goes like this and the technology curve goes up like this. And Doug could understand the long-term implications.
Do you have any other little stories or anecdotes that would reveal a bit more about his nature?
Let's see. It was just a fun group to be in. Some historical anecdote. For example, I live here in Menlo Park. One of the local brew and burger places is the Dutch Goose on Alameda de la Pulgas. One of the guys in the group, Smokey, used to like to hang out at the Dutch Goose and drink beer in the afternoons. He was always getting called back to SRI to restart the PDP-10. So he had a T1 line installed in the back of the Dutch Goose. So it turns out that there were 6 machines on the ARPANET at the time. So the Dutch Goose was the first retail establishment in the world with a permanent connection to the ARPANET. So little things like that. And I think mostly just the people. I don't know how he did it, but the caliber of the people he gathered into that group was just so, Charles Irby, Bill Duvall, Ann Duvall, Smokey Wallace. They did more software innovation, and also another person, Don Andrews, lived in Sebastopol and had a T1 line coming into SRI. And this was in the early 70s, so I believe he was the first teleworker.
We're almost out of time.
Yeah.
Any last-minute thoughts? Any additional comments?
Think of Doug as more than the inventor of the mouse. We have yet to even do a small percentage of his vision, and his vision was really to help the tools enable people to solve the world's problems, and I think we need to keep that vision in mind. I miss him terribly, and I've never met a man who could grasp as far into the future as he could effortlessly.